For Earl Degleton, the world without his lover, Alrian, is meaningless. Then some random guy enters. Degleton shouted, "Didn't I tell you not to let anyone in?" It was actually Garchio, his older brother from his father's side. Garchio said, "It might be best to give up the farmland." Garchio said, "It isn't worth starting a bigger battle than this, right? Send people over for a peace treaty." Degleton replied, "This battle isn't over yet. I have someone to avenge." Garchio asks, "Avenge who? Did your male lover die?" Hearing that, Degleton was shivering that his older brother knew that he was gay. He asks, "How did you know that?" Garchio said, "Our deceased father probably knew it as well. No one just said anything because you married and slept together with a woman." Degleton begged his older brother to lend him his mercenaries because he thinks that if the prestigious Silver Lion mercenaries attack, he could successfully take his revenge. Garchio said, "I am the leader of the Silver Lion mercenary, yes. However, my subordinates are not loyal to me but to the money. If you really want to get revenge, then hire us with money." Degleton said, "Elder brother, you know this as well, but the farmland that I claimed right to was not worth hiring the entire Silver Lion mercenaries." Garchio replied, "That is why you only borrowed 20 mercenaries from me, because that was the appropriate amount of force to invest in." Degleton drops a box of gold in front of his older brother and says, "But for my revenge, it wouldn't be a waste to hire all of the Silver Lion mercenaries, elder brother. Assist me on my revenge, Garchio, leader of the Silver Lion mercenaries." Garchio raised the wine glass and said, "My brother's vengeance is also my vengeance. I will deduct my pay from it." The next morning, the news was heard in the area. Earl Molando advisor said, "They hired all of the Silver Lion mercenaries. Degleton must have gone mad. We have heard that the Silver Lion Garchio is Earl Degleton's half-brother." Molando's knight said, "Your lordship, it might be best to come to an agreement and sell the farmland. We will be able to preserve at least something. You must come to a decision, whether to fight or to negotiate." Earl Molando knows that if the fief gets any smaller, the next earl who will inherit the Molando's nobility might lose the status of nobility. Earl Molando wants to prevent it at all costs. Earl Molando is a man too. He has a pride that he needs to treasure. He doesn't plan to back out like a coward. He said, "If we lose in a battle, it will be such a massive blow that we won't be able to recover even after 20 years. War expenses and reparation might bankrupt the Molando fief. But Earl Degleton is also putting up with the same risk." Then Urich enters the room and said, "I heard that the battle wasn't over yet." Earl Molando said, "So, you didn't run away after hearing the Silver Lion's name?" Urich asks Bachman if the Silver Lions are really that strong. Earl Molando was shocked to know that a mercenary didn't know about the Silver Lion mercenaries. Urich confidently said, "So what if I don't know? Do I have to know it? And is there anyone here who has seen the Silver Lion mercenaries with their own 2 eyes? All of you are jumping to conclusions and getting scared." Bachman said, "Urich, the Silver Lion mercenaries are strong. In the mercenary world, there is no reputation that is a mistake." Urich said, "Oh yeah. So, Earl, are you going to fight? Or are you not?" Earl Molando asks, "If we choose to fight, will your group join as well?" The war lover Sven agrees to join that battle to go to the Hill of Sword. Bachman said that he would follow the decision of their leader. Only Donovan opposed while scratching his head. He said, "It isn't a good idea to fight the Silver Lions, who are essentially a regular army. It really isn't a good idea. These guys fight in a large-scale battle as often as they eat. Even though our individual fighting skills might be similar, the difference between our fighting skills gets bigger with the difference in numbers." Urich laughs at him and says, "Are you going to be the only one backing out, Donovan?" Donovan replied, "If you can't tell when you should retreat, you will die without knowing anything at all, barbarian." But this is what Donovan expected for someone like Urich, who is a barbarian. Bachman told him, "Donovan, we agreed to follow the majority. We decided on that from the beginning." Donovan replied, "I know that even if you didn't tell me." Donovan could only scratch his head. In his mind, these terrible bastards don't get scared at all, not even on their impending death. With that discussion, it was already concluded. Urich told Earl Molando that they will be joining the fight. Molando's knight said, "The surrounding area is all open terrain. Defending will be disadvantageous. That is why we were building fences, right?" The advisor replied, "Defensive battles are better the longer we draw it out. But with just a simple stronghold, that would be impossible. The situation is also worse than we thought. The wood acquisitions didn't go well, so the progress is slower than expected. Then Urich calls out those guys and tells them that he has a brilliant idea. The knight asks him to tell him what kind of good plan is that. Urich said, "We will wait in an ambush. Wait for the fight to start and capture Earl Deggleton. I might have failed last time, but I will get him this time for sure." The knight shouts at him, "Urich, there is no area around here to wait for an ambush. If some of us wait for an ambush, we will just end up dying one by one." The advisor added, "I was wondering what you were going to say, but it is completely a ridiculous proposal." Urich pointed at the back and said, "What do you mean, there isn't a place to wait in an ambush? There was a good place over there." The knight replied, "There is no place to wait for an ambush around here. These people grew up around here, even they are saying that there isn't such a place." Urich, who was annoyed, grabbed his collar and said, "I told you there was one, you bastard." The knight asks him, "Where is it?" The one that Urich points out was the land of poops, the sheet fields. Even Earl Molando cannot hold off because of the smell. Earl Molando told him that it was the place where they gathered their manure. Urich jumps into the poop field and he said, "It was shallow, but we can wait here if we put dirt on our backs and lie down on our stomachs. The location is suitable as well. Once the combat starts, we will run out of here and capture Earl Deggleton." The knight whispers to his lord, "He does have a point, your lordship. If it is here, then they can wait to ambush the enemy." Earl Molando said, "There is even a saying about how it is better to roll around in the sheet field in this world than the other world. The other world the Earl refers to is the afterlife." Urich smiled and said, "First, those who want to wait and ambush the enemy with me, raise your hands. His lordship has promised an additional compensation. We need at least 5 people. It would be nice if we have 7 or 8 just to be sure." Sven volunteers himself, but Bachman doesn't want to do it, saying that he will get a skin disease if he goes there. Donovan volunteers himself and said, "Damn it, I will just do it, and Lalo, Vajorn, Giggs, come out, you bastards. It might be disgusting, but it is an important role. Do you plan on leaving this to the conscripted soldiers?" The rest of them were whining. Lalo said, "The Earl said that he is going to pay us a lot, so shut your mouth." Giggs replied, "Even if we paid a lot, there are things we should do and we should not." Giggs said that he never expected that he will roll in a pile of poops in his life, but Lalo told him that his life is already in the bucket of sheet. Then a soldier of the Earl hurriedly run to report to his lord about the appearance of Earl Deggleton. Earl Molando said that they needed to start now the defensive battle position. Looking at the number of the enemies, including the mercenaries from the Silver Lion, Bachman could only curse and say that this battle is really serious compared to others. In his mind, maybe it is better that we have run, as what Donovan suggested. Bachman looks at the soldiers praying for the sun god Ru to protect them and not take their lives yet. Looking at it, Bachman could only think one thing: it is funny if you think about it. They believe in the sun god, and so do we. Yet we were fighting against each other. Ru must be a pretty biased god. As the enemy in full armor approached, Bachman shouted, "They are coming. Fight with everything you got." Archers attacking the fully armored soldiers. The arrows are pouring like rain, but they cannot penetrate the metal armor of the soldiers from Silver Lion mercenaries. The armored warriors were able to arrive at the wall without casualties, but in that area there is only one rule: it is to stab and kill. The bloody fight continues. Bachman fights in the front line. In his mind, it becomes such a bloodbath that it's funny to even call it a defensive battle. Damn it, we were easily penetrated. The difference in the quality of our soldiers is too large. The mercenaries that are missing are leaving too big of a hole. The best mercenaries are currently hiding in ambush. At this rate, we will all die. I will put my fight in you, Urich. Go and capture the Earl to end this battle soon. On the other hand, the mercenaries led by Urich are waiting in the poop field for an ambush. Donovan said, "I will kill you if you suggest another plan like this. I swear this on my life." But Urich just smiled at him and told him that he could do whatever he wanted. Urich looks at the battle with just his naked eye. He says Earl Deggleton is on a horse and has 8 heavily armed soldiers next to him. Donovan was amazed that Urich was able to see like that from their position. He could only tell that Urich has a monstrous sight. Urich aims the bow at the enemy. Donovan said, "It will be over if he runs away on his horse. You only got one shot at this." With a perfect aim, Urich released the arrow towards the Earl. Earl Deggleton was shocked that an arrow appeared out of nowhere. The arrow hit the neck of the horse, and with that the horse panicked and died, which made the earl fall to the ground. Soldiers shouted to cover the earl who had fallen. Now that the lord is fallen, it is the time for Urich and his group to charge in and hunt down the earl and end the battle quickly. Like a wolf who had seen a fallen prey, they have gone wild to attack anything that hinders their path to capture the earl. The earl was alarmed by his fall, and he saw that the mercenaries were waiting for an ambush. Urich shouted, "Your head is mine, Earl Deggleton." Then he throws the axe at the earl. But before the axe could hit the earl, his older brother Garchio was able to swipe down the axe and prevent it from hitting the earl. Garchio praised Urich and said, "You have a very pretty clever idea. To think some of you would be hiding in a place like that." Urich smirked and said, "You don't look that old, but you already have white hair?" Garchio replied, "I heard that there were some skilled mercenaries. That must have been you guys. The battle is almost already over." Garchio said, "If you surrender, we will hire you into Silver Lion mercenaries." Urich laughs at him and thanks him for the offer. Urich looked at him with confidence and said, "But you know, I don't work under people weaker than me." Garchio replied, "That is a shame, you nameless mercenary." And with that, it was only concluded that words won't work between them and swords could only tell the final answer. The two exchanged blow and Urich was able to realize the hidden strength of Garchio. While exchanging blows, Urich could only think of one thing, and that is that Garchio is not some kind of pushover, and whether it works or not, he needs to be on the offense. While on Garcio's mind, he seems to want to finish this before we surround his allies. "I will let my armor defend the attack to the side while I aim for his head." After Urich blocks that attack, Garchio thinks that now is the time to follow his plan to let Urich hit his armor and do a counterattack. Thinking that with just a normal sword, Urich wouldn't be able to pierce his armor and injure him. But after receiving the attack, Garchio was pushed back, and his prediction was wrong. His ribs were broken from Urich's slash because Urich's sword is not a normal sword, but a sword that was made of imperial steel. Garchio said, "For a mere mercenary to be using an imperial steel weapon, it makes me curious as to who you are." Urich laughed at him and said, "I just heard that your bones break. That must have hurt a lot." Garchio knows that he will win if he can buy some time. However, there is the earl at the back who he needs to protect. Because of that, Garchio said, "Little brother, don't look back and run. It will all be over if you get caught." Then Earl Deggleton follows what Garchio said to run. Earl Deggleton runs for his life while Urich chases him. Garchio told his soldier to catch Urich, who is after the earl. But with the inhumane speed of Urich, he was able to catch Earl Deggleton in an instant. As soon as the earl was captured, Urich made him as a hostage. Urich told him to stay still if he wants to live and also to order his men to stop fighting. But Earl Deggleton don't want to yield and is not staying still. He cursed Urich as the killer of Alrian and a stupid, ugly barbarian, and with that, Urich just beat him up and broke his arm. The earl could only call his brother to ask for help. Garchio said that because of the situation that escalated further, he had no choice but to act, so he take off his knife and aimed at the area where both Urich and Earl is standing. He made the earl put into a front to be his shield, thinking that Garchio wouldn't attack if he did that. And for Urich, Garchio throwing a knife at them is a flawed plan. But as soon as the knife was thrown, the one who was hit was Earl Deggleton, where the knife penetrated his chest. On his dying breath, he was asking how come his older brother do something like that. Garchio told Urich, "Take me to Earl Molando. We will agree to a peace treaty."